video, we're going to talk about the different parts of a phrase and what a phrase is. I'm going to use a couple of examples between this video and my next video out of the Bordoni book, which is basically an etude book for tuba. And one of the things that we need to understand what a phrase is basically how do we identify a phrase and then the different parts of that phrase. So simply put, a phrase basically has three parts: a beginning, a middle, and an end. Some phrases are longer, some are shorter. A phrase can be a single note, just a whole note. As long as it has a beginning, middle, end, and an end, and it makes sense, okay, it has meaning and understanding, then we can call it a phrase. Some phrases revolve around other phrases. Some answer other phrases. Some are parts of other phrases. We have little parts of a phrase that we can call maybe sub-phrases, where we might have little high points within the little, the bigger, phrase itself. So anyway, basically a phrase has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and we want to introduce an idea or a concept. And I'm going to play a phrase right now, and I'm going to show a beginning, a middle, and an end, hopefully eliminating all dead spots. I'm going to use the single note theory, where no two single notes are the same. I'm going to use the ascending line theory, and I'm going to use the descending line theory. First, I'm going to perform the phrase the way I would like to maybe perform it, and then I'm going to play it. Actually, I'm going to play it first with doing absolutely nothing with it, and then I'm going to play it again the way I would like to perform it, so you can hear the difference. And then we're going to analyze the phrase and break it down into its smaller parts. So here's the phrase doing absolutely nothing. Okay, that phrase did absolutely nothing. It had a beginning, middle, and end. Okay, it's kind of hard to identify, if there was any high points within that phrase, because usually within a phrase there is going to be something where all the notes want to revolve around. In this particular phrase, it wants to go to the last note of the phrase. So now I'm going to play the phrase again, and I'm going to show, here's the beginning, here's where I want to go within the phrase, and I want to finally bring the audience with me. So now the phrase is starting to make sense. Now I'm going to slow the phrase down, and we're going to see if we're actually able to use all the theories that I've talked about in the previous videos. We're going to see if we've used the dead spot theory, or if we made sure we eliminated the dead spots, if we are using our single note theory, meaning two single notes can be the same, and then see if we have a beginning, a middle, and an end. On most phrases, you can identify somewhere in the middle or even towards the end a note where all the other notes want to kind of resolve to or revolve around. In this particular phrase, it's the last note, but I'm going to break this down a little bit further and we're going to call the last note the high point of the phrase, because that's where everything wants to go to. And in this phrase, we're also going to use, and what I'm going to identify is what I call sub-high points. The first sub-high point is going to be the fourth note. And I'm going to play just the first four notes. And I'm going to play them very slow to make sure that we understand that I am, trying to make sure that I eliminate dead spots, make sure all the notes are different, and I'm moving and I'm giving life to within these notes. Also, first two notes are crescendoing using the ascending line theory. And then from the second note to the fourth note is a descending line. So I'm going to use my descending line theory. When I finally get to the last note within this first four notes, I'm going to show this is where all the notes want to go towards. So again, that's very slow. But the difference between the way I played that at the very slow tempo and at the fast tempo is only the tempo. The concept of moving each note from one to the next doesn't change. So if I did it right, I crescendoed through the first note to get to the second. Remember, ascending line theory or single note theory. The beginning of the next note is where you're taking off where the first note left you. So if I crescendoed through the first note properly, I'm at a louder dynamic by the time I got to the end, and then I'm able to begin with a good takeoff on the second note. So that's using the ascending line for those first two notes. Now I've got a descending line, and Now, also in evaluating it a little further, the first note and the fourth note are the same exact pitches. So there is a good, true point that I can look at and say, as my checkpoint, and say, you know what, these two notes are different. So there's my single note theory. All right, now, I'm going to expand on this. The first triplet within this and the second triplet within this are exactly the same. So I'm going to play them exactly the same. And I'm going to stop after the second triplet. Okay? There's dead spots all over the place. I'm doing nothing. Each note is exactly the same. I've got a couple little movements within pitches, but it's boring to listen to because they're all the same. So there's all the dead spots. So now I'm going to expand on what I was doing in the first triplet, and I'm going to continue expanding on that, showing the first little sub-high point on the fourth note, and then the next little sub-high point on the sixth note. Or the seventh note, I'm sorry. So again, there's a crescendo happening. I'm moving the phrase till I get to my high point. I'm not at the high point yet, okay? But now let's break this phrase, these 7 notes down a little bit. I'm going to again play them slower. And I'm going to try to make these individual phrases. I'm going to see how many individual phrases I can make out of this. Okay, so I'm going to now just have fun with it and try to make as much music as I can. I'm going to change the rhythm a little bit, all right, but I'm going to still use the same notes in the same order. Okay, so what I did was I took the second and third note and I drove them into the fourth note. All right, I took the first note, I made that a phrase by itself. Okay, so I made as many little phrases as I could have and trying to give as much life into this as possible. Okay, so I'm breaking this larger phrase up into smaller little sub-phrases. Each little sub-phrase has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Okay, I'm using my descending line theories where appropriate. I'm using the ascending line theory where appropriate. Now I just got to put it all together. When you analyze what you're trying to do within your music, you really do have to break it down to the individual note. And if you do that, you're going to bring out the most detail possible within whatever it is you're trying to play. So there is a phrase. The phrase has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It has notes that are moving from one note to the next. It's showing direction. You can interpret this phrase any number of ways. Sometimes I'll have my students play it 5 different ways, and there's a reason for that. You need to be flexible, okay? You might take an audition one day, everybody's going to play the same exact music in an audition. Some people will advance, most will not. And the reason why is because people that are advancing, first of all, are playing it technically perfect, the intonation is right, the style is right, and most importantly, they're making more music. So, and also their sound. You've got to have a great sound. So, again, some people will advance, some people will not. They're all playing the same exact thing. You can hear 100 different ways of playing this phrase. Some will sound better than others. The ones that sound better than others are bringing out the most detail within that phrase. And that's really what you're trying to achieve. So a phrase has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Now, what I'm going to talk about with this, I'm going to expand on this now. No 2 phrases can be the same. Now, within this particular study, the first phrase and the third phrase are exactly the same. Pitch by pitch, rhythm, the rhythms are all the same. It's exactly the same. So I can't play these first 2 phrases the same because as beautiful as I may make the first phrase, if I play it continuously like that over and over again, it becomes, again, predictable. And when something becomes predictable, we don't need to hear it anymore because we know where it's going. So I'm going to play the first 4 phrases within this. But what I want you to do is listen to the third phrase specifically and compare it with what the first phrase is. different to where it's noticeable. Now, no two phrases can be the same. Now I'm going to play the first phrase, but I'm going to repeat it over and over. Okay? I'm going to play it 3 times. Because we understand by the time you hear something 3 times, it becomes predictable. So I'm going to make music out of it 3 times, but they're all going to be the same. Okay? It's boring after a while. So the idea, and you for becoming a better musician, is to figure out what you can do differently with that phrase each time you can do it. Whether it's start off a little softer, build with more intensity to the high point, bring out more of the sub-high points, it's entirely up to you. Again, these are just ideas and concepts that you can try to figure out on your own what to do with the music. One thing I never do is tell my students, here's how you should play it. I give them kind of guidelines to go by, and it's up to them to figure it out. I'll tell them when it's not working. I'll let them also figure it out when it's not working. Sometimes it's a little difficult to figure out, like in this particular etude, we actually have 4 phrases within this. Now, the first phrase is easily marked with a phrase marking. Same thing with the second phrase with a phrase marking. So we understand what the groups of phrases are. The first phrase is not complete yet. All right, it's got a little answer to it. All right, so here's the answer to the first phrase. So here, I'm just going to play the first 2 phrases. Okay, so I answered the second phrase with another phrase. It makes it a bigger statement, okay? I'm not complete yet, because now I'm going to introduce the first phrase again, and then I'm going to complete it, putting a bigger picture together with these 4 phrases. And here are the first 4 phrases now, and each one is going to build within the bigger concept until finally I get to the larger high point within this first group, and that's really the high point of the group itself. Okay, so now, let's go back to the beginning of this video. A phrase has 3 parts, a beginning, a middle, and an end. I put these 4 phrases together to make a bigger concept, and in the group itself, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So the way you could look at phrasing is very simple. Each note represents a letter, a written letter, from the alphabet. You put a group of these letters together, you make a word. You put a group of these words together, you make a sentence. Same thing here. A group of these notes together make a phrase. A group of these phrases together make, we take these sentences and we make now a paragraph. Okay, just like a group of sentences written down on a piece of paper make a paragraph. A paragraph has a beginning, a middle, and an end, just like a sentence has a beginning, middle, and an end. Well, the same thing here. Each phrase has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Each group of phrases have a beginning, a middle, and an end, making a larger statement. When you look at the Vaughan Williams, or the John Williams, or any concerto, you need to look at how the phrases are grouped together, how they fit within each other, and in relation to one another. All right, and again, you can use these concepts in the previous videos and just kind of expand and have fun with it. But the most important thing is to make as much music as possible. Here again are the first 4 phrases, doing absolutely nothing, and then the first 4 phrases making sense, have a beginning and a middle and an end. It's actually kind of hard to do. All right, but again, that had no life to it. But now here I'm going to try to make sense out of it. So in this video, the main concept is to pick a phrase, study it, break it down into smaller chunks, give that small chunk a beginning, a middle, and an end, figure out how that small chunk is relating to the other chunks before and after it, giving that as a group a beginning, a middle, and end till you can really, really study the phrase itself. And then when you have the phrase outlined and studied, then you give that a beginning, a middle, and an end. Then you take the phrase in the bigger picture and how it relates with other phrases around it, giving that group of phrases the larger statement, a beginning, a middle, and an end. And really, to finish the whole thing off, you take that group of phrases and how it relates with other groups of phrases, and you have a whole piece with a beginning, a middle, and an end. If you have any concepts of your own, please respond to the video. I'd love to hear them, and I certainly hope that you got something out of this. If there's something you didn't understand, if I was a little confused on it,